Gran Turismo's music slaps hard, there's no going around it. From the jazzy menu music in between races to the high energy songs in the races themselves, there are so many bangers in here that ought to be mentioned. So today, we'll shine the spotlight on an artist who's created a whole slew of compositions for the racing portion of the series. His name, Daiki Kasho. He's a Japanese composer whose work has been featured in games such as F-Zero GX and the Tokyo Extreme Racer franchise, but arguably his most notable soundtrack work is on the Gran Turismo series, where he's made over 30 original compositions starting around Gran Turismo 3, and believe me when I say that some of these actually do go unbelievably hard. But which ones, I hear absolutely nobody asking? Enter our good old friend, the tier list. I won't go for too long here, S tier good, F tier bad, you know the drill. Just know that before we start, A, I have no knowledge in music theory, so take what I say with a grain of salt, and B, these are my opinions, which may differ from yours, so feel free to discuss your own. We'll also be covering songs and some remixes in chronological order by the game they first appeared in to settle some discrepancies on which game certain songs come from. That aside, let's go ahead and get some songs ranked. So technically, Daiki's first musical foray into the series came with the Gran Turismo 2000 demo, giving us a first look at what the game could look like with the 6th gen hardware of the time. I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end. Thus, we start off our tier list with Mirage, the funny Yellow Evil song that jump scares you at the game's opening. I'm counting the GT2000 and GT3 versions of Mirage separately due to the midsection having slightly different instrumentation in the two games. Anyway, memes aside, this song kinda slaps, not gonna lie. It's well composed and vibes well in a racing environment, plus it doesn't linger around for too long. I will say, however, that I think the GT3 version gets the slight edge due to the aforementioned midsection being slightly better there. Our first pick of the day will be put in A tier. We're off to a good start here. Now here comes the first mainline game in this tier list, 2001's Gran Turismo 3. This is likely the last Gran Turismo soundtrack made while Daiki was still working at Sony, as he left the company during production of this game. While there, however, he contributed these 5 songs to the soundtrack, all instrumentals. And coming up first in alphabetical order is Glau. What is a Glau? That aside, it's fine. It does its job as a cool background song to send your Mazda RX-7 straight into the barriers at turn 1 of midfield 2, but that's mostly it. I like whatever goes on at the 2-minute section where we get some fancy percussion action, but still not much to go around here. At 5 minutes long, this song really does start to drag after a while. The vibes in this track are there, but they just don't hit as well as some other songs in this list, so our first GT3 song goes into C tier. Hopefully it can improve from here. Next up is a familiar face. Welcome back, bro. Specifically the GT3 version of it. As mentioned earlier, I feel this version is the superior one only slightly. Once again, the instrumentation in the middle section fits more with the rest of the song. So yeah, since we're here with the other GT3 instrumentals, I wanted to point out that the real strong suit of these songs lies with the drums and bass. The drums are vicious and hard hitting in the GT3 songs, with the bass equally as heavy to complement it, and I think Mirage is one of the best songs to utilize them. It creates a pretty heavy composition that works really well combined with its tempo and when played in a racing environment. Another A tier here, slightly above GT2000's Mirage for what I just mentioned. Now we're really starting to cook here. Up next is Obscure, and this one's really good. Before the song even starts, you're led in with the hard-hitting bass line that absolutely and positively slaps you in the face, and it delivers amazingly from that, transitioning right into the main melody. Pretty much the whole song is bursting heavily with energy and always manages to get the adrenaline rushing through. Starting at around the 1 minute 50 mark is one of my favorite things I like to see in some of Daiki's PS2 era compositions. The song switches up its melody and holds back on some of its instruments. Then as it progresses, it slowly builds in loudness as the instruments are re-added, and it's just so good, oh my god. In Obscure, it's doubly so with how we get the build up. Then we're seamlessly thrown back into the main motif. It just works so well that I've been convinced with the song. Congratulations to Obscure, our first S tier song of the day. Well, Skyscraper is certainly one of the songs in Gran Turismo 3. If I'm being honest, I keep forgetting about this one. I kinda like the opening guitar bit that appears throughout the song, and the midpoint is nice, but apart from that, it's still a pretty generic and lackluster GT3 instrumental, and it'd probably benefit from being shorter because the 5 minutes and 35 seconds you spend listening to this song drags on, especially since nothing much happens here. So I'm putting this song in low C tier below Glau, but it's not quite D tier material yet because it's still got that juicy GT3 edginess in it. Strikebreaker is also, indeed, a song in Gran Turismo 3. I feel it suffers from many of the same problems as Skyscraper, but a bit more so. I don't find the main hook of the song that great, and clocking it at 5 minutes and 18 seconds, it's also a bit too long and drawn out. I find myself referring back to what Waffle Waffle said in one of his videos, that it'd be difficult to tell the Skyscrapers and Strikebreakers of the world apart, and I have to agree. Those two songs aren't that outstanding, and tend to blend into each other a little to the untrained ear. I'm sorry Strikebreaker, but you're going into C tier alongside your extremely similar looking cousins. And that's GT3 down, with 6 songs already ranked. Next on our list of games is Gran Turismo Concept, released in 2002. All 5 of Daiki's GT3 songs are included in this game, alongside the next 3 entries on our list, which once again are all instrumentals. Continuation is our first one, and it indeed goes hard. We start off immediately with a new instrument. Pretty cool to hear considering how similar many of the GT3 songs were. Continuation makes use of a string section throughout, something which I think adds a whole new layer of depth and makes it stand out among the crowd. Unlike some GT3 songs I could mention, even without the string section, this song's just a banger all around. Not only is it subtly in 3/4, not only does it make great use of its stereo channels, not only does some guy, who could probably be Daiki himself, say in the final third of the song, but it also makes good use of its 5-minute runtime. I mentioned earlier how some of the longer songs tended to drag on, but for Continuation, I don't think it's as drastic since there's just so many little details in the song that make it more enjoyable to listen to for a longer period of time. I don't think it's S tier material, unfortunately, since I don't get as much vibes from the song compared to something like Obscure. I'm still putting it in A tier, so it's still a solid job courtesy of our friend Daiki. And don't expect the high run to end right now, because next up is Heaven. Right off the bat, this song makes a name for itself with horn blasts set to a drum roll. Then he gets slingshot into the main melody, and I love it. The energy in this one is almost unmatched, even outside the racetrack, and it stays that way throughout. There's even a section that goes wah, 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 wah. I'm not for or against it, but it is funny as hell. May I also mention the words in the song? Actual words? You know, they should add them into more of the songs someday. The only problems I have with this song is that the aforementioned wah, 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 wah section drags on somewhat, but it makes up for it with how it ends and returns to the main motif. Well, this song is going into A tier above Continuation. The final song to cover from Concept is Turbo, and I'm sorry, but I'm not as head over heels over the song as I am for the rest of the Concept gang. It's distinctive, yeah, but it's not much really. The vibe's there, but it's a bit held back compared to something like Obscure or Heaven. There aren't really any parts that make the song truly stand out. Apart from maybe the menacing bass intro, I'll still say that it's better than Skyscraper and Strikebreaker though, as it doesn't drag on for that long. That aside, this is a high C tier song. After Concept comes Gran Turismo 4 Prologue, and this is where I think Daiki's compositions truly begin to shine. And there's a good reason for this. For Gran Turismo 4 Prologue and Gran Turismo 4, Daiki worked with this J-rock band he produced for, named Dakota Star. Just a small side note, their music is also actually so good, you should listen to them now. They were the ones to work with Daiki on F-Zero GX and Tokyo Extreme Racer, and they have their own career with a full album available. Together Alone slaps for real, and Never Fall from Grace, like just listen to them, oh my god. Anyway, back to Gran Turismo. Daiki and Dakota Star worked together on 3 songs for this game in particular, except for one, and it will be the first one we cover for this game. Said song is called 2K, and I'm gonna be honest when I say that this is one of Daiki's weakest Gran Turismo songs. It's not a bad song per se, I think it has good elements at its core. I like its instrumentation and the little robotic vocals that we won't see the last of here, but in practice, it falls flat and never really goes anywhere with what it sets itself up to be. It's just very meh. 5 minutes and 20 seconds is already pretty long. Combined with the lackluster melody that does little to change throughout the song, and the section with the robotic vocals killing the pace a bit, 2K really doesn't strike a chord with me like some better songs. And believe me, better songs are coming, especially as Daiki partners with other bands and human vocals get added into the mix. But for now, sorry 2K, you're going down into D tier. Now finally, with that covered, we get to talk about the Dakota Star songs now. Yippee, woohoo! And the song given the honor of the first true vocal Daiki Kasho song on this list is Breakdown. Specifically, the Gran Turismo 4 Prologue mix, which I've determined to be different enough to be distinct from the version we see in Gran Turismo 4. Immediately, we can hear the band's influence on the song with new instrumentation. I'm not a big fan of the guitars in the intro, but it quickly makes up for it with the main riff, which absolutely goes hard. Compared to the version in Gran Turismo 4, which I'd also like to say is the more popular version, Breakdown and Prologue is mixed more abrasively. I'm not sure whether or not this is deliberate, something with the recording equipment, or even something down to the literal quality of the song in the files. Still though, this mix makes the song feel more real. It gives it more character. But I think lead singer Chiaki's vocals are what really tie this piece together. While there isn't much to be said in terms of lyrical depth, it's how these words are delivered that pleases me. Breakdown juxtaposes the fast-paced, almost rap lyrics in the verses to the more laid-back, traditional singing in the chorus. It really helps to complement the instrumentation, which is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer Daiki's vocal songs more. Only problems I have are with the guitar part at the intro that repeats throughout the song, as I mentioned earlier, but also the outro. It doesn't really do much and honestly feels disappointing after everything this song has. Those things do hold it back from an S tier, but I'll still give it a formidable high A tier. Our next song is Good Days Bad Days, with vocals by Dakota Star's guitarist and bassist Alan Bray. The song also appears in GT4, but since its first appearance is here in GT4 Prologue, I'm putting it here. So right off the bat, I am a little confused as to why the cymbals are bit crushed as they are in the mix. When I first came across the HQ version of the song, hearing those cymbals still grace my ears in wondrous 144p did throw me off a bit. That aside, this song is such a vibe. While I will docket points due to its mixing not being the best and some parts of the song sorta overstaying their welcome, this song makes up for it pretty much everywhere else. The guitars go hard on this piece as usual, and so do the vocals. While they do suffer from a bit of English, they provide a wonderful flow to the song. Whenever anyone says something along the lines of good X, bad X, I continue by saying every day's a crash like the song. I'm that brain rotted. Even with the weaknesses I mentioned earlier, I think the last 2 minutes of the song are what saves it. The main instrumentation is put in sort of a holding pattern, while the background stuff slowly builds up and eventually brings you back to the main melody. It's like how Obscure does it, but better, as I think Good Days Bad Days allows itself more time to build up. Good song, despite its flaws. Definitely not as good as Breakdown though, so into B tier it goes. What to Believe is the other Alan Bray song in 4 Prologue, and the other Dakota Star song to receive a new mix in 4. And if I'm being honest, both versions of What to Believe aren't as strong as Breakdown or Good Days Bad Days. At 6 minutes and 12 seconds, What to Believe is a long boy, only outdone by its counterpart in 4. The intro for this song goes pretty hard, but after that the song kinda falls flat, mostly due to its length. Although it is more than 6 minutes long, it doesn't do much with this time, mostly just repeating the same few parts with little to spice things up sonically. They try to pull off an instrumental break like in Good Days Bad Days, but I don't think it's as good here as it was in that song. There is a build-up section, yes, but it doesn't amount to much as a whole, and it just feels a bit underwhelming. I really want to like the song. I think it has really good elements that work in its favor, but alas, it must stay in B tier for the time being. Dakota Star would return for 2004's Gran Turismo 4. They remade 2 of their 4 Prologue songs while bringing a few brand new songs to the table. Another new song appears here, though the band was most likely not involved with that one. But regardless, this is where I think some of the strongest songs in this entire list lie, so let's just get started with this one. First up, Wait, I Remember You. We've come across the foreshadowed Gran Turismo 4 version of Breakdown. Seeing as the Prologue version got its way into A tier, let's see how this version stacks up. Spoiler alert, it's still an absolute certified banger. Whereas Prologue's version is rough and punky, 4's cleans up the production a bit. While I do mourn the loss of some of this piece's character as a result, I think it solves some other problems that doing so creates. The cleaner production allows for more space for each instrument to shine without stepping on each other in the mix. And hold up, this song is actually miles better than the GT4P version. First and foremost, the intro. I docked points from the previous version for that part, but here it actually sounds a lot nicer. Now the intro is just the main bass part with some background noise, and it does a much better job at opening the song and bringing you right into the action. Breakdown in GT4 is also just a lot more melodic and soothing to hear, especially in the chorus, which I personally prefer for a song like this. And did I mention the new outro? Instead of fading out, our song here returns to the main motif, now with a solo guitar over it, before coming to a stop. It's leagues better than the fade out and wraps up the whole song neatly. So yeah, a polished version of our high A tier song. I think Breakdown has earned it this time. Gran Turismo 4's version of Breakdown has finally made its way to S tier. Congratulations. On that note, I'm going to break down mentally for a bit. I hope no high S tier songs play while I'm gone. Oh god damn it. So yeah, it's all about you. It really should be all about the song right now because I can tell this song is one of our best so far just from the opening chords. A part of me just wants to put it in S tier and move on, but I shall not. Allow me to take on the Herculean task of explaining why this is the best Daiki Kasho song we've seen so far. Alright, intro chords, then the main riff, both of which are so infectious and an absolute joy to hear. All the guitars, the bass, the drums, they complement each other perfectly and truly feel like one big grand masterpiece. Then we go into the verses, which really are pleasing to hear. They tone down the instrumentation and focus more on Chiaki's vocals, which might I say are a treat to hear all throughout the song. Contrast it with the build-up in the pre-chorus and release in the chorus with the perfect backing track, and you've got a composition that's almost unmatchable in its feel compared to other songs on this list. And did I mention the bridge? The actual 100% real bridge? It's rare for songs on this list, but It's All About You has a bridge with new lyrics and more switching up of the instrumentation with an acoustic guitar part, and it keeps up the great work done done in keeping the vibe this track has going. The song gets to its slowest and simplest here, with the part immediately after consisting solely of the vocals and a guitar melody, but it complements the rest of the song and the lyrical content really well. Like actually, this song is so amazing. I know I lack the words and experience to explain why it is. I know I probably look like a fool over explaining random songs from this racing game series, but despite these obstacles, I still hold this track dear to my heart as one of the greatest of its kind. So we're gonna put it in the highest spot in S tier, like I mentioned before. Bravo. We have yet another banger coming up shortly, but let's take a little intermission and talk about a sort of black sheep among the GT4 songs. You know, apart from Good Days Bad Days, which was technically already in GT4 Prologue, though it's unchanged coming into this game, so it's fine. My Precious is the one song in this game to not feature any Dakota Star members as far as we know. In place of a human vocalist, our little robot friend from 2K is back for blood. It's way better than 2K, might I mention too, because 1. Our little TTS actually leads the song with a proper vocal part. It's really unique to hear and still fits in a lot more than 2K's awkward vocal section. It almost reminds me of Vocaloid in a way, which now really makes me want to hear Miku singing this. And 2. The instrumentation here is really tightly composed and an absolute joy to hear. The guitars here are especially groovy, and there are some parts on the drums that just add to this grooviness factor. It took a while, but this song really grew on me. I used to think My Precious was just fine, but after re-listening to it so many times for this video, I found myself liking it a lot more. The robot voice gives it that extra bit of charm that helps to make this piece stand out. My only complaint with it is that it loses form at the end somewhat and would really have benefited from a better ending, but it still makes its way to A tier just above Mirage. Holy hell, we're on a good streak here, cause next is Soul Surfer. So compared to All About You's more laid back composition, Soul Surfer brings back pure high energy, something that works well for many of the other songs since, you know, racing game. Yet Soul Surfer doesn't just throw everything it can at you non-stop for 5 minutes. The song paces itself with more minimalistic sections that give you room to breathe, solving the problem of songs dragging out too long. And both of these songs have incredibly catchy melodies and great vocals by Chiaki, both doing wonders for the compositions. And where the song truly shines, like many others of its kind, is the instrumentation. Everything's cohesively mixed. The rhythm parts keep it all flowing wonderfully. It feels like one whole piece that brings you into a flow state and absolutely needs to be heard. I like the part where this cool sound plays, and then the song bursts into its chorus with the main guitar melody leading the song and Chiaki's voice tying it all together. And all the other sections are fire, the bridge and third chorus especially. Once again, I recommend you listen to this one on your own. There's just so much here that I can't find the words to describe. Obviously, it's an S tier, around the same spot as All About You. They're both masterpieces and can be interchanged with each other in terms of ranking. Now here's another song we've seen before. What to Believe is back in GT4, and you know, I was really hoping I'd finally get this song. I hope that the changes and additions made in this game would finally bring this song out of B tier and maybe, just maybe, become a favorite. But no, it's still the same old What to Believe that's grown way off me since I first listened to it so long ago. But the question now is which version is better? 4 definitely has the better mixing and instrumentation over 4 Prologue, and although the 4 version is the longer one at 6 minutes and 27 seconds, which also happens to be the longest song on this list, it makes up for it by having what I think to be the stronger intro and outro. And actually, you know what? This is clearly the better version in my opinion, so it'll go right above its 4 counterpart. But come on, this song is still not enough, so I'll keep it in the B tier, cause it only belongs here. If it was short and sweet, I would call it in a heartbeat an amazing GTB. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Anyway, let's move on to the last song in Gran Turismo 4 and the PS2 era as a whole. Finally, it's Wicked. Wicked. It's a song in Gran Turismo 4, made by Daiki Kasho. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, this song grew hard off me. Listening to it now, it just feels like a huge nothing burger compared to the absolute highs we've seen of Daiki and some other songs for us to offer. The verses are pretty boring, like they were just an afterthought after realizing they had to have one for the sake of the song. And the vocals here are pretty lazy too. No offense against Alan Bray, but come on, you could have at least put some effort into them. Now compare this to the previously mentioned Breakdown. The verses there actually have substance to them, rather than just saying words over a backing track. There's little details in the format that don't make it feel like you're in an absolute slog, unlike the song we're currently ranking. Though if there's one thing I liked about Wicked, it's that the There's No Way part in the chorus kinda carries the whole song. It actually feels satisfying to listen to, especially as the guitars pick up. And also the line, Really on the nose there, Daiki. But that's pretty much all Wicked has going for it. Boring song, not even included in the GT4 soundtrack album. This goes into low D tier. Wow, we ended off on a bummer, especially after 3 S tier songs. Let's just hope things only get better from here. Babe, wake up. They invented a new number. Welcome to the PS3 era of Gran Turismo, starting with 2006's Gran Turismo HD concept, essentially a tech demo demonstrating what Gran Turismo could look like on the PS3, similar to GT2000. Amidst the shiny graphics and the confirmation of the existence of Switzerland, we got a new Daiki Kasho song. The song in question is titled Autoload, and it's surprisingly good. It's a bit on the shorter side, coming in at only 3 minutes and 26 seconds, but I think that works in its favor, as it's not dwelling on anything for too long. Plus, it has an interesting new sound design, closer to something like the upcoming Edge of the World rather than any of the PS2 picks. The little things Daiki does with the main and background guitars in this song gives everything just a bit more depth. The new mixing and melodies are really what sets Autoload apart as the ringing in of a new era for Gran Turismo, but it's still not doing that much compared to some of Daiki's other instrumentals though. This song really would benefit from being a bit longer and having a more interesting structure apart from the same few phrases again and again with minor modifications. It makes Autoload work as background music but not so much as a standalone track, so the highest I could bestow upon this song is a reasonable B tier. Okay, so now we have a concept of what Gran Turismo could look like on the PS3. The next game must certainly be the full Gran Turismo 5 in all its glory. Never mind, I guess. You know, I can't be too mean to Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. I did literally grow up with this game. After all, it is the first ever GT game I played and one of the first console games I played as a dumb 4 or 5 year old, so I'll try to put aside any emotional biases towards this one and just rank its songs on merit like the others. Speaking of bias, I need to rank the menu music for the PS3 games. They're all so good and I want to info dump about those too. I'll also mention that Daiki partnered with a new group for this game in 5. Enter Fade, a Japanese-American rock band, specifically their vocalist Jonathan Underdown. He's done other work for stuff like Ace Combat and Wait What, but in 2007, he worked with Daiki Kasho to perform 3 songs for Gran Turismo 5 Prologue. The first of these songs is Edge of the World. As I said back in the GT HD section, it bears a lot of similarity to Autoload from that game in the instrumentation department. This time, however, Jonathan's vocals and lyrics are brought in to spice up the song. The lyrics in the 5 Prologue songs tend to be more personal and emotional, talking about life's various struggles. Oh yeah, by the way, this song is about wanting to off yourself. I'm a huge fan of the guitars in this piece. They really bring it up a whole notch. Not only do they make up the main riff in this song obviously, but they also complement the main part well and create a truly amazing soundscape. Like that little guitar twang repeating the vocal melody right before the chorus just hits so well. In fact, this whole song hits hard, and it all just goes through amazingly. Like Soul Surfer, it's well paced and gives you room to breathe in between more high energy sections. Even ignoring the surprisingly dark lyrics for a racing game of all things, there's just so much in this song that cuts deep. And the final third of the song ties it all together by following at a constant rhythm and a more quiet pensive ending that helps in both a listen to the music and a listen to the lyrics situation. And all that's worthy of an S tier in my book. A phenomenal song with impeccable flow, even if it doesn't reach the highs of some of the previous songs from 4. Speaking of flow, here's Flow. It's a Number League mobile game where you have to connect dots of the same color. It's pretty cool and I have an 895-day streak and wait, I think I have the wrong script. Flow by Daiki Kasho, featuring John Underdown, from GT5 Prologue. It's a fine bit of music. I find it enjoyable to listen to just down to the instrumentation and mixing of all the 5 Prologue songs. It's got some interesting melodies going on throughout that help it stand out from the crowd, and the added instrumental details like the little piano chords before the verses are worthwhile additions. These elements all make it a good song, but unfortunately, in comparison to the other songs from this game, Flow just doesn't stack up for a variety of reasons. 5 minutes and 14 seconds long for one, but also it's just not as memorable as the others. The main guitar part doesn't do much for the song other than serving its basic purpose of providing a melody. None of John's vocal parts here are notable enough to give this song much of a reason to re-listen, which is a shame because Flow has lots of potential for what we're given. With some more thought put into it as an individual song, I think it could be toe-to-toe with the other songs from 5 Prologue, but as it stands, Flow can only manage a B tier above Autoload. Now Survive is a VR zombie survival game. Alright, fine, I'll stop this time. Surv V1v3 is the next song on our list, and hold up, you smell that? That's pure unadulterated fire up ahead. Once again, just hearing the intro here lets you know that this song is gonna be good, like just the whole intro in general. The guitars are split between both ears, the drums build up slowly but surely, the chorus's lyrics are spoken in the background, everything subtly sets up. Then we transition to our main melody. It's simple, but it works well in giving this song its own rhythm. In fact, this song's greatest appeal to me is its subtlety. It doesn't look like Survive does anything crazy in its 4 minutes of runtime on the surface, but digging deep into the smaller details, the harmonies created by the guitars and bass, you can truly hear how much this piece demands re-listen after re-listen as you lock in for the second hour doing license tests. There's a lot more I could say about Survive. I could mention how singable the vocals are here thanks to John's delivery and lyricism, or how the drums are really the backbone of the song, but I want to mention the part that ties everything together beautifully and, spoiler alert, brings it to a well-deserved S tier, the pacing. Similar to Soul Surfer and Edge of the World, it has more laid back parts where the instrumentation changes up, and it has the advantage of being shorter too. After the chorus here in Survive, the drums stop to take a break, build again, then go into halftime. And this is while everything else here remains relatively unchanged. And John has a call response part with the spoken chorus lyrics. It manages to slow down the pace while still keeping it at the high energy of the rest of the song, and it pulls it off with flying colors. And even that little pause in the second chorus does wonders for this song. It's a simple change, but it's something that gives this song yet another layer of hidden depth that I love to hear. I mean, clearly this is an S tier pick, but the problem is, where exactly in the tier does it belong? I'd say it's better than Obscure due to John's vocals, but it loses out just a bit to Edge of the World, since that song has a unique vibe to it that Survive simply doesn't manage. But our S tier is looking pretty nice from here. Let's hope that this isn't our final entry here. Okay, finally, the Gran Turismo 5. Released in 2010, only a mere 6 years after the previous mainline entry. John Underdown returns again with 3 new songs in this game. They've got as much angst as the previous game, but now it's about abusive relationships. Yay, yippee! So coming first on technicality due to alphabetical order, it's Soul on Display, GT5's E3 trailer song and intro for Spec 2. Its title was chosen by a fan who almost got the naming convention for Survive correct, and it's one of the few songs on this list that are under 4 minutes long. And it's good, but definitely not on the level of songs like Edge of the World or Survive. I don't want to pull out the O word, but given that this is arguably Daiki's most well-known song, it kinda sets up lofty expectations for itself to hang out in either of the top tiers. And don't get me wrong, this song has its fair share of good elements. The guitars are really catchy and give off real All My Life by Foo Fighters vibes that almost sounds like a Daiki Kasho song title. Maybe that could be one of his next songs. The chorus where the titular lyric comes from also has its charm, with the guitar switching from strumming similar to the verses to something more akin to what we hear in the intro. But outside of those few details, there isn't much special about the song. It does its job well enough as a song to race to in Gran Turismo, and I think it deserves a high B tier for that. Now as the flagship Daiki Kasho song, yeah, no, put Survive in its place. If that song can represent Daiki and GT7's music rally, it can represent him as a whole within the larger series. Okay, Day to Live. It's the credits theme for GT5, and I only recently learned that it didn't always unlock his race BGM after beating the game. But how does it fare as a song? It slaps. Well, the verses are kinda meh, the vocal part there especially, but everything else slaps. The pre-chorus and main chorus are definitely the highlights here. The pre builds up loads of tension as the chords build towards a climax, and it's all released in the chords with John here going. Oh, it's actually so satisfying to hear, especially during the credits or in the middle of a tough race. That part alone brings the song up several places. And apart from the verses, as I mentioned earlier, the vocals really do shine here. Lyrics about setting yourself free from abuse first and foremost, but they do a really good job in letting the song pour itself out and be heard, you could say. And not even just the main singing vocals, the background voices in the chorus help it feel larger than life. It helps it feel grand, in a Turismo sort of way. If not for the weak verse sections, we'd have an S tier contender on our hands, so it's going in A tier, but I still really recommend that you listen to it on your own for catharsis trademark. Now for the final track from Gran Turismo 5, Shadows of Our Past. This used to be one of my favorites back before starting this video, and I used to have it as an alarm at one point, so let's see, does it hold up well now that I'm reviewing every Daiki Kasho song? Our friend here answers this by hitting us with one of the hardest intros we've ever heard. Reverb guitars straight into the main melody, what a start. And hopefully he can follow it up well from here, right? Unfortunately, this is where the song started to grow off me. I think the verses are great in a vacuum, same with the little pre-chorus section splitting up the first verse, but it's just cursed with being too long as a whole. Once you get to the second part of the verse, you're just hoping the song finally gets to the chorus, which only happens at nearly the 2-minute mark. The chorus is fine, by the way. The main problem is just the structure of the song before it, and the fact that it simply doesn't feel as high energy as the intro would lead you to expect. The rest of the song simply doesn't deliver enough for an S tier, but there is a saving grace to this song because holy shit, Daiki cooked with the lyrics here. So, phenomenal instrumentation and lyrics help this song stand out, but Shadows' messy structure has really caused this song to grow off me in hindsight. Past me would have put this in S tier, but now Shadows of Our Past will go in A tier, above my precious. 3 years later comes 2013's Gran Turismo 6, so far the final mainline Gran Turismo game featuring music specifically composed by Daiki Kasho for use in game. And this time, he's brought in 2 artists at once, or vocalists, whatever. 2 songs had vocals by Rei Hikari from Station of Revenge and the others by Eric Gregory, according to this post from the Lost Media Wiki of all places. We have 5 songs to go through this time, so let's jump right in. We were doing so well, and now we've dropped the ball with Alive. Following in the footsteps of the other all caps with numbers replacing certain letter songs in Survive and Soul on Display, Alive just can't do either of them justice. Eric Gregory does the vocals here, but he can't save the song. I'm not putting it gently. AL1B3 kinda sucks. I can see it's trying to go for a much heavier sound, but it just falls so flat in doing so. The vocal melody is nothing. The guitars are underwhelming at best, downright dissonant and grating at worst. The drums share this problem too. They could be fine at times, but they never do anything that brings positive attention to this piece. The bridge here, if I can even call it that, is really awkward and does little to switch things up. If there is one thing I found enjoyable in this song, it's probably the orchestral section after the second chorus and before the bridge. It does do something for the song in breaking the pace and just sounding cool, but it still can't save it. I'll just be quick and put it all the way down in F tier. But after that comes All My Life, and holy fuck, this song is actually so goated. There's a reason this song is the intro for the game it appears in. The opening hook, straight to the point. It jumps right into pure action with the main guitar riff and some background voices from this song's vocalist Rei Hikari, and the verses keep this momentum going sublimely. All My Life is definitely where Rei's vocal work shines brightest. His voice itself and the effects applied to it all fit in so well with the rest of the song and its instrumentation, to the point where this song simply wouldn't be what it is if someone else did the vocals. But let's not get too sidetracked here. We also need to talk about the instrumental part. Better believe it slaps hard too. The rock elements that take up the verses are incredibly high energy and enjoyable to hear, and they're combined so well with the electronic elements in the pre-choruses and bridge. Speaking of the pre-chorus, it does an amazing job at building up tension and anticipation, and also at pacing the song. And once we get to the chorus, oh boy, this is actually one of the best choruses I've heard in a Gran Turismo song. It's relatively short, but it sounds so amazing with Rei's vocals and the absolute fire instrumental. And the post-chorus section immediately after does wonders to transition back to the second verse. Oh my god, I actually love this song, guys. You don't understand. Like, as we take an instrumental break after the second chorus, we have a stripped down bridge with more electronic elements and the pre-chorus lyrics that transition right into another pre-chorus. It flows incredibly well and is just another part of this true S-tier song. And after all this, it still sticks the landing with a phenomenal outro. In fact, I think I've been convinced. It took me a while to realize, but we have finally come to the best Daiki Kasho Gran Turismo song. Congratulations to All My Life. You've earned the very top spot in S tier. We've risen from the swamp to the worst song here to then ascend all the way up with the best song on this list. It's almost poetic in a way. And now I'm so sorry for the rest of the songs in this game. Can they live up to the pressure of coming from the same game as Daiki's GOAT? Let's find out with Looking For You, with vocals by Eric Gregory. This one starts out pretty unique with this melodic intro that segues into the verse, which, it's serviceable. This song doesn't really have a main melody apart from the syncopated guitars and drums, which isn't a bad thing. See songs like Autoload that still got good scores. What I will say is that the pre-chorus and chorus themselves are both good. Even if the chorus is just repeating the song title, it sorta makes up for that with the heavenly instrumental and backing vocals, but it doesn't reach any of the heights that songs like All My Life reach. Unfair comparison? Probably, but the point still stands. If I'm being honest, this song is really underwhelming, but but it's not overly terrible like Alive at least, and it's got some pretty good instrumentation as I mentioned earlier, but it can't go any higher than B tier as it is. A little disappointing compared with how well our previous song did. Okay, Rei Hikari has returned again for Place in This World. This has to live up to All My Life and get into A tier at least, and I'm here to say that fortunately it does. Banger intro as usual for the GT6 songs, and I just want to remind you that I love Rei's vocal work for both songs here. His voice just fits so well with the composition and the rest of the song, making it really hard not to sing along. I'd say Place in This World is a more held back version of All My Life. It's a bit less energetic but a banger all the same, but I don't think it's as good as its brother though. It sounds nice, but it's not as strong throughout. The verses and bridge aren't as strong as I'd like them to be composition wise, though the instrumentation in the pre-chorus and chorus both make up for it wonderfully, perfecting the build up and release of tension in the song. There's something great inside here, and even though it isn't exactly an S tier song, Place in This World still earns a respectable A tier. And with We Are One, we have officially reached all the main Daiki Kasho songs on this list, except for one, but we'll get there when we get there. Daiki decided to go out with a bang here and came out with this song, the song that just so happens to be the credits theme for the final PS3 Gran Turismo. Eric Gregory does the vocals for the song, a large role to fill for such a triumphant song to cap off an era and to redeem the last two. But how does this song fare as a whole? Well, you really gotta give credit to this song for how grand it feels. Eric's background vocals and Six's heavier guitar mixing brings this song to the scale it needs to be the capstone of the PS3 era and Daiki's compositions. And actually, yeah, this song does redeem Eric's last two. It's got some really good sections, the outro especially. The drums in particular are what really help this song stay cohesive throughout, as they alternate between full-time and halftime, helping greatly in the song's pacing in doing so. And not to mention the electronic elements sprinkled in, and the motivational lyrics that mesh well in a racing game. This song really is Eric's redemption. Yet despite this, it's still a pretty simple song with an okay chorus at its core. It definitely does not deserve an S tier as it is, but man, the outro of this song, as the background guitars swell and Eric sings the title of this song, it really does feel like the triumphant finale to cap such a momentous era off. It's definitely an A tier song, and indeed does deserve to be the ending theme for Gran Turismo 6. So there's actually one more Daiki Kasho song I want to cover in this video. It's called Vision and it's in the Subaru VGT trailer and the GT7 pre-race soundtrack. Pretty obscure too, so much so that it doesn't even appear listed in any of the game's soundtracks. So you know how literally every other song in this video was some form of rock? Well, Daiki takes a left turn and goes fully electronic with this piece, creating this short little DMB track. I'm gonna try to put aside my biases from this genre, listen to 2 carfuls of mementos from GT5 please, and try to rank it fairly. It's a unique track. The song not being in 4/4 is unusual for this genre, though I'm not using that for or against it. What I really want to talk about is how much I love the choice of instruments here. The drums, synth, bass, they all mesh together really well to create something truly mesmerizing. It gives off major night vibes, like something I'd listen to while lapping any of the special stages. But I have 2 major issues with this song. First gripe, what's up with the first drop? It feels very empty and messy coming in, the latter really interrupting the flow of the song. Why not make it more like the second drop? Second gripe, it's just too short. I hunger for more Daiki Kasho DMB, and being only 2 minutes long just isn't satisfying that itch. It's good, but I think those 2 gripes are holding it back from greatness. Still a B tier track though. Alright, that's all the original compositions down. Let's get to some remixes. I didn't count the versions of Mirage, Breakdown, and What to Believe since they're essentially just remakes of the original songs. But anyway, let's mix things up now and start with the remix from Gran Turismo 5. So for the Spec 2 update of Gran Turismo 5, a new remix of Soul on Display was created, with a new intro and modified bridge, both mainly electronic with orchestral elements. This is the version that was included in the game's updated opening, and the version included instead of the original in the GT7 soundtrack. The new additions fit well, and I think they help to make Soul on Display stand out more among the crowd. Although there is a place for the original version, and the two can definitely be interchanged with one another, I think the new touches finally bring the song to a low A tier. And I mean it when I say we're mixing things up. This is a remix of Flow from 5 Prologue that was played before Daiki's live performance at the 2012 GT Asia Championship. And we're heading once again into EDM territory with another DMB track according to Racer Fan Extras. Sounds interesting, let's just give it a listen and Wait, that wasn't DNB, that was dubstep. Alright, that's it, you're disqualified, get out. Just kidding, it's still a Daiki Kasho song, so I'm still gonna rank it like all the others. And I've gotta say, it's good actually. Brostep is kind of a guilty pleasure to me, and this song is no exception. The intro and instrumental parts especially stick out to me as proof that this man here can do dubstep. But I will admit that the vocals are pretty ham-fistedly put in there. They just don't flow well, pun definitely intended. The whole track doesn't really sound like a remix of Flow, it feels a lot more like a standalone Brostep track that just so happens to use Flow's vocals. It has its own merit as a dubstep song, but is it better than the OG? Unfortunately, I'd say no, since the original Flow is a much more cohesive piece and the drops here are pretty disappointing, but our little remix here will still go into B tier, right above Turbo. Alright, back to the 2012 GT Asia Championship. They performed Edge of the World at that concert, but this time a different arrangement compared to the version present in 5 Prologue, and that arrangement was sort of recreated in the studio and included in Gran Turismo 6 under the name Edge of the World 2012 GT Asia Championship Mix, VIP, and Knuckles with new funky mode. Let's compare the differences first and foremost. There's a slightly different intro where the drums come in immediately, not too shabby. There's also a lot more piano in the mix, also not a bad choice, but the main change from the original lies with new instrumentation in halftime and a modified structure that replaces the outro with just the chorus again. First of all, I love the new mixing. The guitars here sound a lot better than the original. As for the composition, I do think that the whole song being in halftime isn't much for or against it, it's just a neat change in this remix. But the main problem with EOTW 2012 GT Asia is what I mentioned earlier with the new structure. While I do like how it transitions back into the chorus, I bemoan the loss of the outro section, which would probably sound amazing had it been remixed along with the rest of the track. I would have had it to where it does the outro as usual, then transitions back into the remix section, if you get what I mean by that. Would it be longer and a bit more awkward? Probably, but without that, our Edge of the World remix unfortunately falls to A tier. I wasn't really sure if this would count for the tier list at first, but in the Gran Turismo 6 opening, they give All My Life a new opening section, but they had to cut down the length by removing everything in between the first chorus and the outro, which now gives us the problem of whether or not we should rank it as it is in-game or use one of the fan-made mock-ups of a full version, just to be fair on the tier list. I decided to rank it as if it was the full version with the added intro. Speaking of, that simple addition makes this already S tier song impossibly better. It feels like you're truly ascending listening to the chorus melody here in the new intro. It's just an extra 40-second snippet, but it truly transforms the song into something else. This will also go into S tier, right above the original, though with a huge asterisk on it for fairness' sake. Alright, that's all of them covered, and... Hello? Wait, what do you mean they remixed some of the songs for the GT7 original soundtrack? So a good handful of Daiki songs were remastered or remixed as part of the Gran Turismo 7 Best Lap album. What's interesting is that some of the more creative remixes don't appear in the actual game, only here in the soundtrack. But whatever, let's rank them because they're still Daiki Kasho Gran Turismo songs. Before we do, let's get the minor remasters out of the way. Survive and Day to Live are the only ones I'd consider better than the originals for mixing reasons, but only slightly. Good Days Bad Days, Soul Surfer, What to Believe, and Soul on Display are about the same as the originals, either because they don't make as many changes outside of the mixing, or that the changes they do make don't amount to much. And unfortunately, I think Breakdown got slightly worse here. I don't like the mixing as much compared to the OG, the base opening especially, but they all still get free passes because they're the highest quality versions that are readily available to dumbasses like me. Now for the actually interesting remixes, of which there are two. They're the remixes for It's All About You and Shadows of Our Past, and spoiler alert, it's not looking good for either of them. Both songs have a new intro section, just like the remixes for Soul on Display and All My Life. It's All About You has an orchestral intro with the second chorus's vocals, and Shadows of Our Past has this weird lo-fi intro. But unlike those previously mentioned songs where the additions are either interchangeable or make the song better, the new intros on the songs here sort of bring both of them down. They both feel tacked on to the pieces they're in. They don't integrate the new parts into the rest of the song, and the intros just being there on their own don't help the songs to start off on a strong foot. Shadows of Our Past especially so. That lo-fi part just clashes hard with the high energy of the rest of the song. So these new remixes will be ranked a tier below their OGs. That means It's All About You GT7 goes into A tier, and Shadows of Our Past GT7 goes into B tier. And it just goes to show that sometimes simplicity wins out over novelty. And that's the full tier list. Pretty much every Daiki Kasho Gran Turismo song I could find here has been ranked, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you to this man. Even if some of his songs aren't that great, he's created tunes that have wound themselves into the hearts of many a Gran Turismo player, myself included. This car racing game series just wouldn't have the unique vibe it does without Daiki Kasho's musical talent, just as Matsuhiro Ando's jazz fusion has built so much of the series' identity before. I'm not ashamed to say that at various points, I've considered making edits and memes featuring my other interests to some of these songs. Frankly, these songs are just that good enough to warrant escaping the Gran Turismo sphere and finding new horizons. And Polyphony, Sony, whoever holds the rights to these songs, please release them in high quality on Spotify or elsewhere. I love so many of these songs and I want to listen to them in high quality without the crunchiness of lower quality game rips or the interesting choices of the GT7 soundtrack album. Thank you. Well, there isn't much else I want to say other than thanks for sticking around to the end, and